Hey, what is going on, guys? RvzStealth here, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at the new strong and weak picks for patch 9.21. So a pretty small patch for the most part, not too many changes, but there are definitely some pretty impactful changes in this patch, and I think a couple of changes will definitely shift the meta a little bit for the coming patch. So with that being said, guys, let's get started. Alright, so to start it off here, first up is going to be Kogmaw. Now this is a champion I don't think I've seen in solo queue for at least the past couple of months now. This champion has a very low pick rate in solo queue. It's below 1% right now, so he's just not being played at all. I don't think it's a terrible pick right now, actually. He's always been a pretty good pick into things like Kai'Sa. Kai'Sa is one of the most picked AD carries right now. He can do well into that. It's also a pretty good pick into Ezreal, into Sivir, into Xayah, who are all being played quite a bit right now. So with these buffs in this coming patch, I can see Kogmaw actually becoming one of the stronger AD carries if people actually decide to pick him. I feel like one of the main cons to Kogmaw, or the main reason to why people don't pick him, is not because of him not being a strong pick. It's just because he's a pretty boring AD carry for the most part. So Q damage there being increased by 10 at all ranks, and E damage being increased by 10 at all ranks as well. So 20 extra damage there on your full combo. Will definitely notice it if you can hit those abilities in the laning phase, and it will make his laning phase stronger. So for next patch, I expect him to either remain an A tier pick or jump up to a low S tier pick. We'll have to see, but he's definitely going to become one of the stronger AD carries for 9.21. Now, I guess Riot wants to buff end of season duo Q boosting because Lulu is getting buffed in the exact same patch as Kogmaw, so this is pretty interesting here. I don't think the Lulu changes are going to be as impactful as the Kogmaw changes. They're still pretty good buffs. Her E shield and her E damage are both being increased by the same amount, it looks like. They're more so only getting increased at the later ranks than at the earlier ranks, but that's still a pretty good buff to the Kogmaw Lulu combo, which will definitely get stronger here in 9.21. I think overall for Lulu as a champion, she could jump up into S tier, but she's going to remain probably a very strong A tier pick for 9.21, and definitely a pick that would be worthwhile picking up for solo queue. So for Victor, after all the changes he got last patch, he kind of stabilized out as a B tier pick in 9.20, so he is getting buffed here in 9.21 to give him a little bit more power. I think that with this change, it will bump him up into A tier, and he'll be a solid A tier pick for 9.21. Q magic damage is being increased there by 10 at all ranks, so it's not the biggest buff in the world, but I think it's what he needs in order to put him into just around a 50% win rate. Right now he's sitting at like 48%, so he is still struggling a little bit since his rework, and I think this buff will be enough to at least put him into a balanced spot for solo queue. Similar to Kogmaw, another champion we just haven't seen for what it seems like the past year or so now is Maokai, so he's finally getting some buffs in this patch. Much deserved buffs in my opinion. This champion has just been pretty weak overall in solo queue past year or so, and he's even gotten weaker recently because of indirect changes to other champions. We just saw Fiora get buffed a couple patches ago. Garen just got buffed last patch. Darius is pretty strong in the meta, so his matchups in the top lane right now are just not very favorable for him, and I think that even though these buffs are pretty significant, he's probably just going to jump up into an A tier spot, and he's still not really going to be a super strong blind pick top laner just because of all the good counters to him in 9.20 at the moment. W mana cost though, it is being lowered from 60 to 80 down to 60 at all ranks. W damage being increased by 20 at all ranks, so that is definitely going to help him out there. In the early game, when you're getting ganks with Maokai, it's just going to add to your all-in potential. It's going to add to your damage combo there, so I do really like that buff to his W. Root duration being increased by 0.2 seconds there. 0.2 seconds, it looks like at all ranks on it, and it does scale with the distance traveled, so from 0.6 seconds up to 0.8 seconds if you get a very short ultimate off, and then from 2.4 to 2.6 if you get a max range ultimate. Now, come to think of it, these buffs actually might be more impactful for support and jungle Maokai than for top lane Maokai. Just having that extra damage on his W to increase his all-in potential, either when he's ganking or if he's looking to go for a level 2 all-in if you are playing support Maokai. Also, the root duration increase there, more utility for a support Maokai, makes his ganks a lot better if you are playing jungle Maokai. So top lane Maokai obviously does get stronger for next patch, but I think that jungle and support Maokai are definitely going to be a little bit sleeper for 9.21. Moving on to Kane here, at first glance at these buffs, they do seem like they're kinda just out of nowhere, but when you really take a look at it a little bit more, it does kind of make more sense. So Kane isn't really performing super well in solo queue right now. I didn't think he was actually performing that bad, but he's only sitting at around a 48% win rate in solo queue, so he is underperforming statistic wise for 9.20. Also, when you take a look at all the other junglers who've been buffed recently, we've seen Zac getting buffed, Echo, Kha'Zix, Xin Zhao, Rek'Sai, Shaco. There's just so many junglers that have been buffed in the previous patches, so it's kind of just left Kane getting indirectly weaker due to these other junglers getting stronger. So I can definitely now kind of see as to why they're buffing him in 9.21. Q damage there being increased by 15. Q bonus damage to monsters decreased by 15, but that change is negligible because he's getting an increase on just the damage to his Q there. So it's you're going to do the exact same damage to monsters, but you are now going to be dealing more damage to champions. With these changes, I do see Kane solidifying himself as an A tier pick for 9.21. I think that if you've played Kane in the past, if you're a good Kane player, he's definitely going to be worthwhile to pick up for the coming patch. Now for Master Yi, he's getting a Rage Blade bug fix in next patch to where it's going to allow you to double strike every 2 autos instead of 3 when you do get Rage Blade fully stacked. So on paper, this might not seem like the biggest change, but I actually think it is going to be pretty influential. It's going to increase your damage output once you do get Rage Blade. I also think it is going to increase the viability of Spear of Sojin as a third build on Master Yi, because Spear of Sojin, every auto attack is going to reduce the cooldowns of your basic abilities. So if you're able to double strike more often now, it's going to reduce the cooldown of your Q a lot more when you are running that Spear of Sojin. So I think that there's a couple different buffs with this one buff here in next patch, and I think that for the lower elos, this could potentially bump up Master Yi into S tier. If not, he is going to remain a very solid A tier pick for solo queue. And then the final champion getting buffed here, another jungler, Warwick, is getting 2 different buffs. So Q max HP damage being increased by 2% at max rank, W attack speed there being increased by 20% at rank 1. It's going to be the same when you do get it maxed out though, so this could actually mean for next patch you see a Q max first on Warwick instead of a W max first. The fact that the W attack speed is getting increased at the earlier ranks and staying the same at max rank, but the Q max HP damage is only getting increased at the later ranks, that's the reason to why you would look to max Q out first now in next patch instead of W. We'll have to wait and see. I think W max could definitely still be the better option, but with these buffs here, Warwick could potentially become an S tier jungler. I think for the lower elos, that's definitely possible for next patch. Higher elos, he probably still does remain an A tier pick, but nonetheless, he does become quite a bit stronger with these buffs. And then to round it all out, couple champions getting weaker. First up, we do have Pike, HP per level being lowered from 100 down to 90, so 10 HP per rank less. I do think this is pretty significant. I can't even count the amount of times to where I'm playing against Pike and he escapes with a sliver of HP. He barely escapes. So with this change in next patch here, there's going to be those instances to where he's going to die. He's not going to live now on that sliver of HP, and that's like at level 10, that's what, 100 HP less. It's actually a pretty significant amount, so I do think this nerf here is pretty big for next patch. Passive there is also getting nerfed. Gray health decreased from 30 to 81% down to 20 to 50% of damage taken, so that's actually a pretty decent chunk of a nerf there as well to Pike, and I do think with these 2 changes, he's going to drop from S tier down into A tier. For Shaco, he's getting a pretty small nerf for the most part. I think what this nerf here to his W means is that they're trying to take away from that very quick level 3 that he can get right now in 9.20. So if you don't know, Shaco can basically level 3 gank bot lane in this patch when the bot lane is still level 1, because what he can do is he can set up his boxes at his red, his Krugs, and his Raptors, and he can just take the camps out very, very quickly. So I think that's what this change is targeting here for next patch. So that path does get a little bit weaker, but I just don't think it's going to make him that much weaker overall. He can still just look for a normal path if this change does screw up that path that he was having success with in 9.20, and I do expect him to still remain an S tier pick. And then lastly, to round it all out here, Garen isn't going to be moving anywhere for next patch, so he is getting a nerf to his E, but that's not going to be enough to drop him out of S tier. He's just overperforming pretty much in every single elo in 9.20, upwards of a 56% win rate in like silver and gold right now. So with this nerf here, really not going to do enough to drop him out of S tier. E damage per spin being lowered from 8 down to 4 in the early game, so it's actually somewhat of a significant nerf, but just due to the fact that he's so strong right now, it's just not going to be enough once you get it maxed out, 24 down to 20 there. So just overall, expect Garen to still be the strongest top laner for 9.21. So that is going to be all for the video, guys. Overall, I do think that other than the Shaco and the Garen nerfs, a lot of the changes were pretty significant, and I do expect that all those other champions that did get buffed, or in Pike's case that did get nerfed, they are going to significantly impact those champions for the coming patch. With that being said though, guys, if you did enjoy the video, be sure to drop a a like and subscribe if you have yet to already. So thanks for watching, have an awesome day, and I will see you in my next video.